301 AD. The Italian Peninsula. Inflation is running rampant across the mighty Roman Empire. Arabian tribes threaten the eastern fringes of Rome, and thousands of Germanic refugees stream across the northern frontier seeking shelter. Diocletian, the Emperor of Rome, must stop these crises in order— Oh look, there's some homeless dude building a country. Let's talk about that. Beep! So a lot of people don't know this, but I actually really enjoy history and frequently scroll through the internet and such, reading random articles and clicking on links. A couple days ago, I was reading an article about Italy and their participation treachery in both 1.5 world wars. Sorry. I was so intrigued that I even put together a short, meticulously researched simulation of one of Italy's largest naval battles. Somebody took my spaghetti! Anyways, Italian jokes aside, we'll be spaghetting back to those later. I was reading up on Italy, and one thing led to another, and I was reading about European microstates then. This led me to San Marino, the tiny country that is completely surrounded by Italy and is actually the oldest country in the world. So that got me thinking, how did this tiny guy get here? We'll start our story out on the little island of Rab, which was in the Roman province of Dalmatia, in modern-day Croatia. Hey, that sort of rhymes. I could probably make some kind of spoken word or something out of this.
If Croatia was Dalmatia, that means Croatians were Dalmatians, and Dalmatians seek salvation through art. My next piece will be on why cats are actually the most conservative household pet.
Wow. That was even hotter than the ethnic tensions in that area of the world. Booking starts at $700. Okay, so this dude on the island was named Marinus, and he was a stonecutter. One day, some pirates came to this city across the pond from Marinus's home and burned it down. The Roman Emperor, Diocletian, was like, "Gee whiz, I really could use some stonecutters to help rebuild these walls that the pirates broke. I guess I'll just have to forcibly relocate a bunch of them and make them build these stupid fortifications for me." Did I frickin' stutter? So long story short, Marinus ended up at this town called Rimini and rebuilt the walls for a while. After that was done, Marinus was like, "Man, that was hard. What I really need now is a nice place for me to go and pray. I wonder where a guy like me could find a place to worship God." Huh? Nowhere? My religion is illegal? Christians get fed to lions? Oh shoot. Marinus then went into hiding in order to avoid being arrested and just kinda hung out until some crazy woman recognized him and claimed that she was his ex-wife. I guess you could say that she was a imposter. I'm sorry, San Marino just makes me silly. That whole ex-wife bit is actually true though. Now that people knew who he was, he had to flee to a big mountain and build a church because that's exactly what any normal person would do after an awkward moment with a fake ex-wife. Don't ask me how he built a whole church by himself, by the way. He just did, okay? His church did attract a lot of people though, and soon a small little secret community of Christian people started living on the mountain with him. The nation of San Marino was officially founded in 301 AD, just 4 years before the creation of Pitbull. During the Middle Ages, Italy was comprised of a ton of little tiny city-states that were always fighting with each other, and San Marino was no exception. In a clear act of brutal imperialism, San Marino made an alliance with the Pope and took a tiny village from the city next to them. This was the last time San Marino's borders would change. After this, San Marino just kinda chilled out in the mountains. Wait. Here comes Napoleon. The year is 1797, and Napoleon has just conquered all the cities around San Marino. However, one of the leaders of those cities was hiding in San Marino, and Napoleon was not going to have any of that. So he sent a letter to the tiny nation that basically told them to give him the dude from the other city or be invaded. San Marino decided to do neither. One of the leaders of San Marino, Antonio Onofre, just became buddies with Napoleon instead. Napoleon liked Antonio so much that he decided not to invade San Marino and instead gave them a bunch of food, money, and made it illegal for anyone to tax them. Make friends in the government, I guess. The next interesting thing to happen to San Marino was in 1861 when the government wrote a letter to Abraham Lincoln and offered to make him an honorary citizen of the Republic. Lincoln accepted the offer, but never really went to San Marino because of the whole, getting shot thing. After the death of their American friend, San Marino got depressed. No, really, they slid into a severe economic depression, and a lot of people started to leave the country to find work in other countries like the US. Don't ask me why they crossed an ocean to find work when they are literally surrounded by a large industrial nation that shares a culture and language with them. People are weird. Hey Connor, what happened to San Marino in the World Wars? Little Jimmy asked. That's a stupid question, little Jimmy. Why don't you go off and play with your friends? But Connor, I don't have any friends. Whoops! Guess I forgot! So you're probably wondering what happened to San Marino in the World Wars, and the answer is pretty interesting. Since San Marino was completely surrounded by Italy, who was involved in both of the wars, San Marino always had a pretty tough time staying neutral. In World War I, they did send 20 volunteers to fight for Italy, and they returned with 21 because they made an Italian friend. This makes them the only country to actually have negative casualties? In World War II, Italy was a little meaner and cut all the telephone poles into the country so that the Allied spies couldn't use San Marino as a base. Later, Britain accidentally bombed them and Germany invaded them, but the Americans kicked the Germans out really quick, so no harm, no foul. Also important to note, San Marino took in over 100,000 refugees during the war, even though their whole population was less than 15,000 at the time. After the war, San Marino decided to try out communism for a while and elected them into power. This is the only time in history where a communist party was democratically elected. After a few years, the citizens decided that communism just wasn't really their cup of tea, so they voted another party in. This is also the only time in history where communists have decided to respect constitutions and give up power without getting confused and killing peasants. In 1992, San Marino finally decided to join the United Nations, and that pretty much sums up their story. Alright, I'll let you go back to your lives now. I'm going. There. I'm Chicken Parmesan. But